This is the second half of today's lesson and just more examples of graphing linear inequalities. And so here we have a y-intercept of -4. And so we're going to start by graphing that y-intercept 4 spaces below the origin, and then from there following the slope. So it's a 3 to 1 slope. So going up 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3 over 1 space, gets us on that line. So again, up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1, and you do that a few times. You could also go the other way, down 3, 1 to the left. Then from there you look at the inequality. No line means dashed, and that again means that those points on the line are not solutions, but the line does represent a boundary, a barrier between solutions and ones that are not. And so we either have solutions on this side or this side. And what we do to figure that out is look at the y value. It's a positive y is greater. This means bigger y's. That's what greater means. Bigger y's. And so which side has the bigger y's? Well, here the y's are smaller. See, if I go on this side, as I'm going this way, the y values are getting smaller. These are smaller y's here. But on this side has bigger y's, and you can see that as you go up this axis, the y-axis. See, numbers are getting bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are bigger y's. So bigger y's are where we shade, and that's in this region here. And that's where we'd end up shading for that problem. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one requires some extra work. You see, you've got this minus sign here. Our method does not work. You cannot graph using that slope y-intercept unless you have y by itself. And so again, it's important to get that y by itself, and the way we do that is one of two methods. Either multiply or divide by a negative. Now when you do that, you don't just multiply the numbers. You do, basically, but something else changes that's real important. It's that inequality sign. When you multiply or divide by a negative, it switches. And so now y is by itself. Positive y is greater than or equal to negative x. And from there we can go ahead and graph. Now, what happens for the y-intercept? Where is it? What number can we add to x to not change it? 0 is that number. And so we're going to go at 0, the origin, and then follow what the slope tells us. So -1 to 1. Down and to the right is the way we're going to end up going. Down and to the right. We could also go the other direction. Could go up and then to the left. Gets us on that same line. Well, from there we'll take a look at the line type. And the line type right here, this symbol right here means equal. Equal. So that means that the points on the line are also solutions. And so that's why we use that solid line to represent that. The solid line represents the points on the line work or make sense when we plug them in. If we plug them in, the two numbers y and x would equal, like 0 equals 0, 1 equals -1, but then the signs switch because of that minus sign. Well, from there we need to figure out the shading. Again, go back to where it's positive y. Positive y is greater. Greater means bigger. And so positive y greater than or equal to. Greater, again, means the bigger y's, and bigger y's are on this side. You can see that as you go in this direction, the y values are getting bigger, and so that's why we end up shading on this side. Take a look at the next one. This one requires a little bit more work. We need to get y by itself. A couple ways we can do that, and the way I'll do this one is I will go ahead and just subtract x. And when we do that, we go ahead rewrite our equation here. We've got a -y greater than or equal to, and then -x plus 3. And so from that point, what we're going to do is now we just need to do the same thing we did on the last one. Get rid of that negative sign in front of y. And the way I do that is either multiply like I did here, or you can divide by -1. And it's real important to make sure you divide every number by -1. And when we do that, what we have is this. Y is now less than or equal to, because we had to switch the sign, divided by negative, less than or equal to positive x minus 3. So we're going to start down 3 spaces on the y-axis and use the slope. Slope is 1 to 1, so you're going up and to the right, up and to the right. Do that a bunch of times, and now you got points on the line. Well, from that point, we can go ahead and look at the line type. Again, it's another solid line here, so that means equal to. So that means the points on the line work. They equal, not just a less than, but also equal. But the less means that we're going to go to the smaller y's. Smaller y's are on this side of the line. Now, a y, well, because if you look at the y-axis, these numbers are getting smaller as you're going this way. They get bigger as you go this way. So that's why we shade towards the smaller y. So again, this method only works when y is positive. When it's a positive y, that will show you which way to shade. Well, let's fix this next problem because here we have two x's. So let's go ahead and change that so we have a y value in there. So now we have x plus 2y is greater than 0. So we've got a choice here. Last time I subtracted the x and then divided by -1. Here, this time, let's just move this y over. It just has 0 on this side. So I could go ahead and take this y value and subtract it from both sides. This is another way to do it. Now, when I do this, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite the equation as x is greater than -2y. Now, notice that I didn't switch the sign, just moved the term over. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. So I'm going to rewrite it so that the y is on the other side. And if I do that, I'm not going to divide yet. I'm just going to rewrite it. Now notice that this is the same thing. X is greater than -2y. And it's the same as -2y is less than x, because you see how it points towards the -2y. Here, I'm pointing it to the -2y, so I haven't changed it. I did switch the inequality signs, but that's because I switched the two numbers. So now I'm going to get rid of that negative sign and the 2. And so what I'm going to do is divide by -2. Now when you do that, remember there's a 1 in front of any number, or any variable. 1's being multiplied, and because a 1 doesn't change the number. So when I go ahead and do that, I now have y, and I got to switch that inequality sign again. So y is now greater than -1/2 x. Now notice I wrote that as a fraction so you can see what the slope's supposed to do. It's telling me to go down and to the right 2, or I could go up and to the left 2. And so there's still no number out being added to the x term, so again the y-intercept is 0. So that's where I'm going to start. And now I'm going to use that slope. And so slope is telling me to go down and then to the right 2. Down 1, right 2. And I could go the other way. I could go up and then to the left as well. That gets me on that line. Well, from there, we'll go ahead and draw the type of line. Now, this is a dashed line. Dashed line because we do not have that line underneath. And that means that the line itself does not represent solutions. And that's why we use that dashed line. But on one side of the line, there are solutions, and the other, there are not. So let's see which side has those solutions. Well, we've got to look to the inequality sign. And here, again, we're looking at the positive y is greater than. Greater than means bigger. So these are bigger y's on this side. And so the bigger y's are off in this direction. But I want to show you something about the original problem. So the original problem would show us the same thing. See here, positive y is greater than. Positive y greater means above. And so it doesn't matter whether y is by itself to determine which way to shade. It's really what the sign is in front of the y term. So if it's a positive y, that means no matter whether it has a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or 5 in front of it, you still are going to shade whatever the inequality sign says. Greater means above. But if it were a negative y here, see, negative y is greater than or equal to in the original problem. But when we divide by that negative, it switches the sign. So that's why we shaded below. So if it's a negative y, you're going to reverse the rule. Positive y, rule stands. Those are just some more examples of what tonight's homework looks like.